Well, it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining me on this independent off-tube studio commentary. The game at the London Stadium has just got underway. West Ham United taking on Nottingham Forest, 18th against 13th. 5 points separate the two sides. And the long ball straight away towards the edge of the West Ham penalty area, trying to pick out Morgan Gibbs-White, but that ball is cleared up towards the halfway line. We had a moment's applause before the start of play in memory of Bobby Moore. I believe it was yesterday was the 30th anniversary of Bobby Moore passing away. And certainly, of course, absolute legend at West Ham and for England, of course, England's World Cup winning captain. But the game now underway and plenty of work here for West Ham. They find themselves in relegation, just a point behind Bournemouth and Everton, 4 points behind Wolves and Leicester, 5 points behind Forest. And with Leeds and Southampton facing each other today at Ellen Road, it's vital that David Moyes' side get 3 points today, because if either of those sides, Leeds or Southampton, if either of them were to win and West Ham were to lose, well, then they could find themselves dropping even further down the table. But I'll just remind you of the two teams very quickly. For West Ham, it is Łukasz Fabianski in goal, then a back four of Vladimir Tufal, Angelo Ogbonna, Naif Forged and Ben Johnson. The two holding midfielders are Thomas Souček and Declan Rice. The three ahead of them, Said Benrahma, Lucas Paqueta and Jarrod Bowen, with Danny Ings as the front man. For Forest, it is Kaylor Navas in goal with the back four of Neco Williams, Joe Worrell, Felipe and Renan Lodi. The three in midfield are Remo Freuler, John Joe Shelby and Jack Colback. The two ahead of them are Morgan Gibbs-White and Brennan Johnson, playing just behind Chris Webber. Here come West Ham with the ball into the penalty area. Ings with a chance to get into the box. He's just about to pull the trigger and he just about gets put off there by Felipe. He was pretty much getting towards the edge of the 6-yard box there, Danny Ings. It was just a looping ball played over the top by Tufal. And a really poor ball from Felipe. He actually gave the ball away to Ings, and credit to Felipe, made up his mistake and just got a foot in as Ings was about to shoot, which just dispossessed the West Ham front man. And the ball now back in play as Wood heads it on. And Gibbs-White carrying on his run into the penalty area here. He's been well marshalled, though, by Naif Forged, who is suggesting he may have been fouled there as well. But I don't think it's been given as a free kick. Just a throw to Forest now down the left-hand side. Our referee, Jarrod Bowen, didn't see anything wrong with that. Lodi taking the throw on quickly. And then going back towards the halfway line here for Felipe. So it's a busy Saturday afternoon with Everton taking on Villa, Leicester against Arsenal, and this game here between West Ham and Forest, and as I mentioned, Leeds against Southampton as well. That's a massive game. Bournemouth against Manchester City to come at 5:30 with a 7:45 kickoff. Palace against Liverpool. But here come West Ham now down the right-hand side. Souček trying to feed a ball towards Jarrod Bowen, but he's been marshalled there by Renan Lodi. Bumps into Renan Lodi and gives away the free kick. You can see from the reaction here of Jarrod Bowen, he certainly wasn't happy about that decision. I mean, there's not much in it, and I think in that situation, if Bowen was in possession and Lodi had run into Bowen like that, I don't think West Ham would get an attacking free kick in the same place. It's one of those little inconsistencies that we see sometimes in terms of how defenders can just show the referee that they felt they may have been fouled, and on that occasion, it was enough to convince it was actually the linesman there that gave that decision rather than the referee, but certainly Jarrod Bowen agreeing with his assistant. And it is Kaylor Navas who's come into this Nottingham Forest side and has made some really big saves as well. Particularly in that game against Leeds, kept Leeds out. It looked as though Forest could be in trouble in that early goal from Brennan Johnson. And that was a big, big win for Forest. They've had some good results over the past 6 or 7 games. It did seem as though things were going to go a bit difficult for Forest, really, when you could see and consider how many players they signed over the summer. But as the season has wore on, they have picked up some big results. That draw against Manchester City last time out was a big, big point for them, and of course, and a point that certainly affected City's charge towards the top of the table. But certainly, Forest will be looking to try and carry on. They've got Everton at home next week, which is a big, big game for them as well. Then away to Spurs, at home to Newcastle, and at home to Wolves. So certainly the games against Spurs and Newcastle will be tough fixtures for Steve Cooper's side. But the home games against Everton and Wolves, they'll look at those games as must-wins. And if they can get all 6 points from those two games, and they really do give themselves a chance to really pull away from relegation trouble. As West Ham now pushing down the right-hand side. Tufal's attempt to cross the ball in, deflects out for a corner. This will be a good opportunity now for West Ham to get players into the box. And it is going to be the left foot of Jarrod Bowen in swinger from the right-hand side. Plenty of activity inside that 6-yard box. It's whipped in towards goal, and it needed a header away just underneath the crossbar there. I'm not sure Navas was getting to that one. It's headed back towards the edge of the Forest penalty area. It's Bowen again, puts the ball in, which is taken down by again Ogbonna going for the volley. And, well, there was another left footer stood just behind Angelo Ogbonna in the form of Jarrod Bowen. I think ideally Ogbonna would have left that for his more attack-minded teammate. But he saw the opportunity there. It was Bowen who lifted that ball into the box. And credit to Oged, he had the presence of mind to head it back. But I don't think Oged was heading it back to Ogbonna. It may well be that the Italian centre-back didn't get a shout from Bowen that it was his ball. But Bowen was in a decent position there. He could have easily pulled the trigger himself. He tried to, in fact, but Ogbonna got there first. And his effort was skied a long way over the bar. It's out for a throw to Forest down the right-hand side now. Still at the edge of their own penalty, having to do a bit of work here, and that's not a particularly good clearance either there from Freuler. West Ham win the ball back here in midfield. It's Rice back to Suchek. Now it's Tufau's ball into the box, headed away, and a loose ball drops to Tufau here on the right-hand side. Being stood up there by Jack Colback. Goes back towards Daddy Ings, but then Morgan Gibbs-White trying to twist and turn his way out of problems at the edge of his own box. In the end, he draws the foul, and it will be a free kick to Nottingham Forest just at the edge of their own penalty area. 6 minutes gone, it is goalless, but West Ham certainly making the better start here at the London Stadium. It's goalless in all the other Premier League games thus far. And the early game in the Championship, Coventry City beating Sunderland by 2-1, and just the one early goal in the Championship. And would you believe it, it's at Turf Moor, where Burnley have taken an early lead against Huddersfield. They really are flying in the Championship this season, Burnley. But back here to the London Stadium, it's Johnson down the left-hand side for West Ham. Under pressure, had to get a quick ball back there from Benrahma, and now Paqueta going back towards Angelo Ogbonna. Now looking up to see if there was an option of a long ball. Just plays it short though to Oged. Now it's with Tufau down the right-hand side. West Ham certainly looking confident at the start of this game. Tufau's ball up towards Suchek is blocked by Renan Lodi. Forest are back in possession here. Wood turning away from Jarrod Bowen, finding Morgan Gibbs-White here in midfield. And he had option to go around the right-hand side towards Neco Williams. Just chose to hold the ball up here, which maybe wasn't the best option because West Ham have had time to regroup in the meantime. John Joe Shelby, another one of the new signings brought in January. Going square to Felipe. He looks up, spots Chris Wood. Dropped a little bit deeper this time. Going back towards Lodi now on the left-hand side. Felipe switching play this time over towards the right-hand side. That's, well, it's a decent effort from Neco Williams to keep that in play because the ball was very high. He couldn't really take it down first time, but now West Ham are on the counter with Paqueta finding Benrahma down the left-hand side. He gets to the edge of the area, his cross headed away by Joe Worrell. Suchek hooking that one in towards Bowen. That's really good play there from Suchek, taken down by Bowen. His effort deflects off Lodi, and that is out for a corner kick, despite Worrell putting his hand up to say it should be a goal kick. I'm not sure how he sort of saw that was a goal kick. It clearly takes a deflection off Renan Lodi as Bowen got this ball from Suchek. Lodi finding himself in the right place at the right time there. So a corner kick now to West Ham from the left-hand side. Their previous one was from the right. We'll see if it's the same corner kick taker. It's not. It's going to be a right-footed in-swinger this time from Declan Rice. In fact, he plays it low along the ground, hits a Benrahma at the edge of the area. Benrahma then going back to Johnson. Back to Rice. Still plenty of players inside that penalty area. West Ham need to get a cross in. Benrahma trying to find space for that cross. He does put a cross in, which is easily headed away by Chris Wood. Loose ball dropping here in midfield, and Suchek finding Paqueta, who was unmarked on the right-hand side. His cross is charged down by John Joe Shelby, and that is out for another corner kick to West Ham. It will be back over on the right-hand side this time. So you'd imagine this would be left footer Jarrod Bowen coming across to take this one, and it is. West Ham, they've done their homework. They know that Kaylor Navas, for all the great ability he has as a shot stopper, he's not always the most confident on crosses, so they're trying to surround him in that 6-yard box. And Bowen going for goal. He's done this already early on in this first half. The first corner kick he took needed to be headed away by a defender, a Forest defender, just underneath the crossbar. This time it was looping in, and Navas puts his arm up to apologise there, because I think really he should have come out and claimed that one a little bit sooner. But once again, West Ham getting 4 players into that 6-yard box, and Navas having to use bodyguards around himself just to try and find some space. Referee Jared Gile has spotted all that pushing and shoving. Seems that's Thomas Souček, West Ham's one of West Ham's Czech internationals there, getting a bit of a telling off. Ings and Ogbonna are inside, well, pretty much on the line there, trying to get in the goalkeeper's way. It's Rice, he whips it in towards goal, and Navas, well, he palms it away. Wasn't the most confident save. Paqueta with the strike, it deflects off Danny Ings, and that could have been going goalwards, but it's away. Well, West Ham are asking for another corner. I'm just wondering, I thought this deflected off Danny Ings after Paqueta's effort. But again, Navas, very suspect there. It wasn't a particularly difficult cross to deal with, but the goalkeeper made it look difficult. And just seeing that replay, the ball actually sailed past Danny Ings and then flicks off the leg of Felipe. So it should be, and it flicks off the post, in fact, as well. Didn't see that with the first replay. With that melee of players in front of goal. Couldn't really see that live either. But Brennan Johnson just crouched down for a moment. Just seemed to be in a little bit of pain there. He's back up on his feet. And West Ham have this corner kick. They're stacking up these corners early on here, West Ham. And once again, that 6-yard box is flooded. And Bowen once again going for goal. This time a more confident punch from Navas. Gets it towards the edge of the area. Hooked back in by Benrahma. Ogbonna couldn't get his head to that one. It's headed away by Wall. Then hooked away by Brennan Johnson. But West Ham have the ball back straight away here down the left-hand side. With side Benrahma. Gets to the edge of the area. Lays it up here now for Paqueta. Back to Benrahma, whole line of West Ham players to choose from here as Benrahma puts that cross in. Once again, it's that tall framer, Joe Worrell. He heads it away back into midfield. And Rice back to Bowen. Bowen trying to skip away from Loddy. He managed it. Bowen going for goal. It's charged down. The ball out back with Paqueta. His effort gets a deflection. But on this occasion, that deflection takes all the sting out of the shot. And there's plenty of time for goalkeeper Kaylor Navas to get underneath that one. But Forest having to weather a bit of an early storm here from David Moyes' West Ham. Couple of really good efforts, and the two best efforts of West Ham have actually come directly from corners. Bowen's corners on that right-hand side. The first one he whipped it, had to be headed away by a defender on the line, and then just that one we saw a moment ago, that was definitely dipping under the crossbar until a one-handed save from Navas tipped it over for a corner kick. Now it's Joe Worrell with a long ball up towards Brennan Johnson. He heads it down, trying to get Morgan Gibbs-White into play. Gibbs-White gets it back here to Johnson. Benrahma, though, is able to disrupt that, and he goes back towards Ben Johnson. Ideally, Brennan Johnson and Ben Johnson won't be colliding too many times today. That's always going to make things a bit more difficult for the commentator. But in the meantime, Neco Williams is brought down here. And although the West Ham players aren't happy, the referee has given Forest a free kick. It's not too much in that one, really, between Ings and Williams. It's almost as though Williams just showed the referee that he was the one losing his balance, and that convinced Jarrod Bowen that there was a foul. But I thought it was a 50-50 there between the two of them. Free kick now to Forest. It's still a long way out from goal. It's just over the edge of the centre circle inside the West Ham half. So it's a long, long way here for John Joe Shelby. Certainly won't be thinking about a shot, but he needs to pick out a good cross here. Plenty of tall players in that Forest lineup. It is Shelby's ball towards the penalty spot. Felipe with the header. That one is forcing Fabianski into a save. It was going straight down the middle, really, and perhaps Fabianski would have thought he could have held on to that one. In fact, just looking at that replay there, it was dipping just under the crossbar. Safety first there from the West Ham goalkeeper. If in doubt, you make sure you put it out for a corner rather than trying to catch it and then potentially giving a goal away. And that's certainly what Fabianski was thinking there. But West Ham have already had 5 corners in these first 13 and a half minutes. This is now Forest's first. And it's going to be an in-swinger here from Johnson. Brennan Johnson towards the edge of the 6-yard box. It's over the head of Chris Wood, headed away by Declan Rice. Back into the West Ham penalty area, hooked away by Ogbonna this time. And Williams was the last man back there for Forest on the halfway line. He plays a long ball back towards the West Ham penalty area. Played away by Declan Rice. And West Ham back in possession now in midfield here with Lucas Paqueta. Back towards Ben Johnson. Declan Rice now. Under pressure from Brennan Johnson, switch and play over towards the right-hand side for Tufal. Tufal's ball down the right-hand side. Bowen goes down. And, well, he collides. Well, collides maybe is too strong a word. He brushed past Felipe there. And I think he was probably trying to draw the foul. Referee and linesman weren't having it this time. Forest, though, give possession away almost immediately. A long ball is quickly cleared by Tufal. And now it's with Bowen down the right-hand side. Goes back to Vladimir Tufal. Holds on to the ball. They could have switched play towards Benrahma, who was unmarked on the left-hand side, but West Ham just building things here on the right, and then a bit of miscommunication there. Just short passes there between Paqueta and Tufal, and the ball is out of play. And the West Ham bench are furious. Not at the fact they've given a throw-on away on the halfway line, but the fact that the Forest players managed to steal about 10 yards from where the throw-on was actually meant to be taken. But in the end, the referee spots that and gets the Forest player to go back. It's one of the easiest defences. I mentioned that in my commentaries quite often. Taking a throw-on from not where it's supposed to be taken, it seems to be one of the easiest defences on a football field to get away with. And referees, some referees are becoming wise to that. We've seen a couple of referees also giving players a heads up about potential foul throws. I saw that in a game between Brentford and Palace last week, where the referee just warned Tyus Jensen that he needs to be careful. But back to the action here at the London Stadium. 15 minutes gone. Independent, unofficial, off-tube studio commentary. Goalless between West Ham United and Nottingham Forest. In fact, it's goalless in the 3 other Premier League games that are being played right now between Everton and Villa, Leeds, Southampton and Leicester against Arsenal. Still got the 2 evening kickoffs to come. As far as tomorrow, we've got the early game is in the Premier League. It's a 1:30 kickoff between Spurs and Chelsea. That's available on our service. And then the 4:30 kickoff is the Carabao Cup final between Manchester United and Newcastle. It'll be fascinating to see how that game plays out tomorrow. But the long ball now played towards the edge of the Nottingham Forest penalty area, and that's catching practice there for Kaylor Navas. Easy claim by the goalkeeper there. Rolls it out to Joe Worrell. Long ball up towards the halfway line, taken down by Declan Rice. Now it's with Jarrod Bowen, pushing forward down the right-hand side here. Bowen gets it into 2 foul, back to Bowen, edge of the area. Has Bowen gone offside as he went after that ball? Well, the Forest players had their hands up, no flag for the time being. There may be a delayed decision there, but here is 2 foul. West Ham still on the attack with 2 fouls. Ball into the box. Gets a flick off Felipe, and it goes out for a corner, and Felipe is straight away asking the linesman, where's the offside? But it doesn't look as though the officials are going to give an offside here. Of course, from the camera angle that we've got here for the off-tube pictures that we're getting, it was impossible to tell. It did look as though Bowen had gone forward, but whether or not he was offside, it was impossible to tell from that one angle. And so certainly West Ham won't mind. They've got themselves a corner kick here on the left-hand side. It's going to be an in-swinger from captain Declan Rice. Whipped in towards the edge of the 6-yard box. They're testing Navas again. He gets a punch on it. It just about gets towards the edge of the area. And Renan Lodi now bringing the ball out here for Forest. Plays it up to Brennan Johnson. And he's away down the left-hand side. He's got support up ahead of him. And Johnson just holds on to it for too long. And there's a frustrated frame there in midfield. It looks as though it was Morgan Gibbs-White who'd got furthest forward. And he was expecting a pass. There was enough time there for Brennan Johnson to pick him out. But he decided to go alone, and in the end, his run was stopped. Well, Forest win the ball back very quickly here. They're in possession on the halfway line now with Jack Colback. Now it's with Remo Freuler. Things have just slowed down here at the London Stadium in the last few minutes. And for the time being, John Joe Shelvey just playing it back towards Joe Worrell. If you look at the Nottingham Forest injury list, it is so it's almost like a squad in itself. There's about 14, 15 players on it. A couple of them, I think, are on their way back to being on the bench. But it really is a long, long list of injuries here for Steve Cooper. I mean, he's got a big squad to choose from, but even so, there are a lot of big players missing here for Forest. You think of Bolly, McKenna, Awani, Richards, Niakate, Henderson, Yates, Lingard, Biancone, Kouyaté and Aurier. All these players are currently listed as injured. And not one of them is on the bench this afternoon, so they are still all out for the time being. West Ham's injury list is much shorter. It's Kurt Zuma, and it's also Maxwell Cornet, who hasn't really had time to bed down properly in this West Ham first team. He's been beset with injuries. Certainly, from what we saw of him in his few very good performances that he had at Burnley, certainly a player that could do some damage here for David Moyes once he gets into the team. And West Ham need all the goal threats they can get, because it has been slim pickings for the Hammers in front of goal this season, which has contributed, of course, to them finding themselves in the bottom 3 at the start of play today. Jack Colback now, experienced midfielder here for Forest, back towards Felipe on the halfway line. Forest have just stepped things up in the last few minutes. A bit more possession here for the visitors, who are in their change yellow and blue strip this afternoon. Back with Shelvey, now Felipe towards Freuler. But West Ham got 2 banks of 4 with Ings and Benrahma just pushing on as well. So it's just making it a little bit more difficult here for Forest. But a long ball down the right-hand side does find Neco Williams, but that's good work from Ben Johnson. Just does enough to get in Williams' way. Williams in trying to block that clearance there from Johnson. He's ended up hurting himself there, the former Liverpool man. Let's just have a look how this has happened. Johnson's in possession. He clears it, and he actually he stamps down on Neco Williams. There is absolutely no intent there whatsoever. And the linesman, in actual fact, started waving for a foul. I don't think that you could give that as a foul, although it technically, I mean, I suppose that it's actually been given as a free kick to West Ham, which does confuse me slightly when you consider just how there's certainly nothing wrong from what Williams did there, but it may well be the referee decided that he was just a little bit late, and as a result of that, he was caught by Ben Johnson. Fabianski now waiting to restart play. Just looking at the two benches this afternoon. It is Downs, Cresswell, Pablo Fornals, Emerson, Antonio, Scamacca, Lanzini, Kecha and goalkeeper Areola on the bench for West Ham this afternoon. As for Forest, it's Ayew, Toffolo, Danilo, Lingard, Dennis, Surridge, Gustavo Scarpa, Mangala and goalkeeper Hennessy for Steve Cooper to choose from. West Ham were pushing forward, but Forest win it back now. We're here in midfield, and it's with Remo Freuler to Cole back towards the edge of his own penalty area. And Joe Worrell, again, West Ham are trying to push high up the field as well to try and eliminate any long balls here from Forest. They do have very efficient target man in Chris Wood, and they've got some pace as well with players like Gibbs White and especially Johnson. So you just feel as though if West Ham get this offside spot on, that it is going to make it difficult for Forest to play a long ball out from the back. And playing short balls as they have been trying to for the last 3 or 4 minutes, not really giving them much joy either. West Ham are able to negate everything that Forest are doing. But Navas on this occasion clears a ball down the right-hand side, which is brilliant, taken down here by Johnson. And Brennan Johnson is off. He's towards the edge of the area, leaves it out for Gibbs White. Gibbs White with the effort. And his strike is straight at Fabianski. And there's frustration there from Remo Freuler as well. He was expecting to get a ball back here from Gibbs White, because Freuler and Wood were completely unmarked breaking into the box. But Gibbs White got that pass from Brennan Johnson and decided to shoot himself. And it's now West Ham pushing forward down the left here with Said Benrahma, getting towards the edge of the Forest penalty area, back towards Lucas Paqueta. His cross-in is volleyed clear by Felipe. All back with Paqueta inside now towards Jarrod Bowen. Two foul on the right-hand side. He's got players to aim for. Two fouls. Ball is a good one as well, but that is not a good header. He's got his bearings all wrong there, has Danny Ings, and look of real frustration there on the on the West Ham forward's face, because he knows he should do better there. As two foul puts that cross in. I mean, Souček jumps, which might have just unsighted Danny Ings for a split second, but I'm finding excuses for him really, as prolific and as lethal a finisher as Danny Ings can be when things are going well for him. That was a poor miss, and he knows that as well. He could have done much better with that header, but it's a long clearance here from Navas down the right-hand side, kept in play by Neco Williams. Runs straight into Lucas Paqueta, though. And the Brazilian does really well to win that ball back for West Ham. He's becoming a much more established player in this West Ham team. It was interesting for me to see how much of an influential player he was at the World Cup for Brazil, Lucas Paqueta, because he hadn't really made too much of a mark at the London Stadium in the months leading up to the World Cup. It's not like he wasn't playing at all. Of course he was, but didn't really sort of stand out as being one of West Ham's top players in the weeks and months building up to the World Cup. Since the season has restarted, he's found himself in this first team regularly, Lucas Paqueta, and it's Benrahma now here for West Ham, finding Bowen. He's got two foul on the overlap. It's two fouls, ball into the box, and Souček was waiting, but Worrell gets there just ahead of him. Clears that one up towards the halfway line. Taken down here by Jarrod Bowen, doing his best to get away from... Well, he was trying to get away there from Chris Wood, who's helping out in defence. I'm not sure how much help Chris Wood actually was there, because he quite blatantly shoved Bowen with one arm. And because the referee had already given a free kick for a similar sort of push that Bowen had done on Lodi earlier in the half, couldn't really just say to Bowen on this occasion, no, you need to get up. I think the referee was always going to give a free kick there, and this is a good opportunity now for West Ham. It's the right-hand edge of the penalty area. Players to aim for inside the box, and it's going to be a left-footed ball in here from Jarrod Bowen. Once again, the edge of the 6-yard box is being surrounded, flooded here by West Ham players. Kaylor Navas, I think, is upset about something. I'm not entirely sure what he's worried about. I think he was worried about potentially a shot at the near post. So he's just asked Brennan Johnson to make a one-man wall. It is now across from Bowen. It's headed away by John Joe Shelby this time. It drops to Ben Rama, left-hand edge of the penalty area, trying to get away from Jack Colback. He does get away from Colback. He drives the ball towards the penalty area, and it's cleared away for another West Ham corner. 25 minutes gone. Independent, unofficial off-tube studio commentary. Goalless here between West Ham United and Nottingham Forest. It is still goalless in the other three Premier League games this afternoon. And it's a corner kick to West Ham now from the left-hand side. It's going to be whipped in by Declan Rice. Here is the ball from Rice. Navas, well, his punches are getting better from these corner kicks, almost like he's having a training session here with the amount of very deep in-swinging corners that the goalkeeper's having to deal with. The ball now back in midfield here with Lucas Paqueta. And back heels this to Naif Gerd, who stayed forward after the corner. In fact, he was tracking back from the corner when West Ham won the ball back. On this occasion, though, a pass into the box from Bowen is cleared away by Renan Lodi. And now Chris Wood laying the ball off towards Joe Worrell, who doesn't even pass this one out. He just clears it. I think there were still too many West Ham players getting towards the edge of the area, so Joe Worrell clears it. We do have our first goal in the Premier League this afternoon. It has come at the King Power Stadium. It's Leicester City 0, Arsenal 1. Gunners have just taken the lead in the last few seconds. Just confirm the goal scorer for you in a moment. But that's a big, big goal for Arsenal. And straight away, sending a message out to Manchester City, who play away at Bournemouth this evening, which you would imagine is a game that City will be winning. But things haven't been going as smoothly as Guardiola would like this season. That game against RB Leipzig in midweek seemed like City just didn't quite have the firepower to bring a win home after the first leg, drawing 1-1 in that one. West Ham have won themselves a free kick. It's about 40 yards out on the left-hand side. Paqueta and Declan Rice standing over this one. Forest have set up at the edge of the area of the offside. It's Paqueta's ball into the box, headed up in the air by Felipe, then headed away by Chris Wood back into midfield. Brennan Johnson jumps for that one, but it's Tufal that wins it, and then Gerd hooks the ball in towards the penalty area. It's cleared back into midfield. It's Declan Rice who has that ball for West Ham. Plays it short to Ben Johnson. Now it's side Ben Rama down the left-hand side, being tracked here by Neco Williams. Ben Rama doing his best to get away from Williams. Freuler is there as well, goes back to Paqueta, and now Ben Rama gets it back from Paqueta. His effort, though, isn't a particularly good one. It's a tame effort straight at the goalkeeper there. An easy save in the end for Kaylor Navas. Now, the goal was scored here for Arsenal, and it looks as though Leandro Trossard is the one who's drilled the ball into the net. However, there is a VAR review at the King Power Stadium, so that one goal that we have in the Premier League so far this afternoon, it may well turn out that that's going to get chalked off in the next few moments as well. Keep an eye on that one as play goes on here at the London Stadium. It's Chris Wood in possession for Forest. He's passed to Brennan Johnson, quickly been reclaimed here by the Hammers, though. Certainly seemed more up for it early on in this game. It's almost like Forest have sort of accepted their role of having more of a half with having to contain West Ham. And here come the Hammers now with Danny Ings. Loses the ball there as Freuler got his head in the way. Played back towards the goalkeeper, Kaylor Navas. Long clearance now down the right-hand side. And Neco Williams playing the ball forward there, trying to find Brennan Johnson, but Ben Johnson gets in the way. And that one is out for a throw-on to Nottingham Forest down the right-hand side. See David Moyes making some notes there as well. Be thinking just how his side have had enough possession to actually have the lead here. They've had enough decent chances as well. When you consider the two corner kicks that forced the save from Navas, there was the shot from Ings which deflected wide. There was the shot from Bowen just outside the box which deflected wide, and then onto the post. And there was also the miscued header from Danny Ings. So really there have been enough. There has been enough here for West Ham to feel as though they could be in front. But as it is, it's still goalless. And Fabianski hasn't really had too much work to do at the other end. He's had to make a couple of saves from efforts which were pretty routine, really. And other than that, He's had a quiet afternoon so far, the West Ham goalkeeper. So certainly he'll be hoping that carries on here, because Forest, they seem to be, at one stage in this first half, it seemed to be as though Forest had just weathered that early storm from West Ham and they were starting to show a bit of their own possession, but hasn't really proved to be the case. That they've still struggled to try and hold on to the ball in midfield and actually generate some sort of attacking possession, as long balls played up towards Gibbs-White. He's not able to keep it in play, and he was unhappy. He felt as though he might have been brought down, but meanwhile at the King Power Stadium, it's all happening because the Arsenal goal was disallowed. The goal between Leicester City and Arsenal, Trossard's goal, has not been given. So it's still goalless, and there was word that there may be a goal for Leicester City in that game, but so we'll confirm that in just a moment. As it stands, it is still 0-0 in that one. And it's with Angelo Ogbonna now down the left-hand side towards Ben Johnson. Back into Said Benrahma. Does well to just skip away from Remo Freuler. Played the square towards Vladimir Tufal, now Tufal up towards Bowen. Bowen getting away from Renan Lodi. Just under a bit of pressure here, Jarrod Bowen tees himself up for a shot. He does go for goal. It's charged down by the feet of Felipe. It's back with Tufal on the right-hand side. Plays it in towards Bowen. Back towards Declan Rice. Rice under a bit of pressure there, having to go back towards Ogerd. Pressure here, but Ogerd switching play now over towards the left here, looking for a side Benrahma. That's cut out though by Neco Williams, and he's off on the run now down the right-hand side. Finds Brennan Johnson. Johnson back in towards John Joe Shelvey. Shelvey looking for an option here, gets the ball towards the edge of the area. Williams' ball in is way too high here for Chris Wood, but it can still be picked up here on the left by Lodi. And it's Lodi's cross in, which is charged down by Vladimir Tufal. So that is a corner kick to Forest. Decent response from them, considering they have been under a lot of pressure in the last 10 minutes or so. But he has been precious little in terms of an attacking threat from Forest in the game thus far. And so they'll see this is a very good opportunity now to try and put some pressure here on the West Ham defence. Fabianski organising his defenders. Going to be an in-swinger here from Morgan Gibbs-White. So, 9th corner kick of the game already. West Ham have had 7. This is Forest's second corner kick, and it's a really poor one from Morgan Gibbs-White. It barely reached the near post. It actually goes back to Gibbs-White after it was partially cleared by Paqueta. Then a second ball in from Renan Lodi is cleared towards the edge of the area. Now it's picked up by Said Benrahma, and he's off down the left here, heading towards the halfway line. He's brought down, and felt as though it might have been a foul. No foul, says the referee. Play on. There was no foul there, according to Jared Gillet. Forest now back in possession inside the West Ham half. Here is John Joe Shelvey. Plays it into Neco Williams. Thought about a cross into the box. There were options there for him in the box. Goes back to Shelvey. It's with Williams again. Lifts the ball into the penalty area, which is just a bit too high for Chris Wood. Taken down here by Jarrod Bowen, who then runs straight into Renan Lodi, but the deflection of Renan Lodi goes out for a goal kick. So that will be good news as far as West Ham are concerned. And they're best to try and keep possession here. As we can see, 33 minutes on the clock. Still no goals anywhere in the Premier League to tell you about. Things are starting to kick on in the Championship. Plenty of goals there. It's Burnley now leading 3-0 against Huddersfield. Still 0-0 between Sheffield United and Watford. 1-1 between QPR and Blackburn. Wigan are winning away at Preston. Just to give you a rundown of some of the big results. West Brom 2 up against Middlesbrough as well. But so far, nothing happening in the Premier League in terms of goals being scored as Colback heads the ball out. It was played down the West Ham right. Colback gets in the way. It's Tufal's throw now. Ball back into midfield. Taken down here by Remo Freuler. And Freuler looking left and right before just going back towards his own penalty area. Forest, I think, quite sensibly now are just trying to slow things down. Maybe they won't be able to create the sort of chances or the attacking possession that they would like. But in the last 5 minutes, you have to say that Forest are seeing more of the ball, and West Ham really are struggling to get possession. But the attempts on goal tell a different story in terms of who's been the better side. West Ham have had 8 efforts to Forest's 2. And of those 8 efforts for West Ham, Just the one of them has been on target. And the ball now back with Kaylor Navas, closed down here by Danny Ings, but he's able to get out towards Renan Lodi on the left-hand side. Lodi running into Jarrod Bowen. Still work here for Lodi to clear that one, and he doesn't clear it in the end. Bowen wins it back for West Ham. It goes back towards Lucas Paqueta. Declan Rice now to Angelo Ogbonna. Square to Ben Johnson. Down the left to Saeed Benrahma. Trying to get away from Neco Williams. Just deciding to hold things up and then go back towards the halfway line again. West Ham are quite happy just to keep possession for the time being, as Paqueta now trying an early ball down the right-hand side here for Jarrod Bowen, but always asking a little bit too much of Bowen there, and Colback just using that, the fact the ball was right on the line just to make sure it goes out for a throw. I think overall David Moyes will be the happier of the two managers, but on the other hand, he would say that for all that possession that his side have had, maybe they should have just had a few more clear-cut chances, or taken the chances they have created a little bit better. But they may get another chance here as the ball down the right-hand side is headed down. It drops to Thomas Souček. His cross is charged down by Renan Lodi. And a header from Felipe and a clearance from Lodi up towards the halfway line. It's with Lucas Paqueta now. His ball into the box. Oh, it's Ings. He's tried to head it down for himself, but he's had that ball cleared away by Joe Worrell. Paqueta now at the edge of the area, finding Ings over towards the left-hand side. Benrahma treads on the ball, and then there's a fall inside the penalty area. Cross coming in, it deflects out for a corner. I mean, Lucas Paqueta is holding his shoulder there like it's a really serious injury. It may well be that it's a dislocation there for the Brazilian. We'll have to wait and see exactly what's happened to him there. As Benrahma held this up, and it looked to me as though it didn't seem to be too much in that initially, but it's Shelby just seems to get clipped there by John. It's Shelby that seems to run into Paqueta there, and Paqueta then fell awkwardly and landed on his shoulder, and that seems to be what the problems are now for Lucas Paqueta. Physio has come out to try and see that everything is okay. See now as David Moyes just discussing things with his assistant. And, certainly looking at the way Paqueta is moving around now, you don't want to say too soon that he definitely won't be able to carry on, because I think that that can sometimes be a little bit of an early statement, but it looks to me as though there is a bit of a problem here for Paqueta. He's gone off the field now. I'm not sure if he's going to return for this corner kick or not. Just waiting to take this one now is he's going to be whipped in by Declan Rice. Plenty of players to aim for inside the box. Rice's corner, it gets onto Jarrod Bowen, and then there's a really poor header there from Neco Williams. He tried to head it away from that near post, and he actually miscued the header slightly before the ball is cleared up towards the halfway line. And here come West Ham now down the left with Saeed Benrahma trying to skip away from a couple of players. His cross into the box gets a big deflection. In fact, no, it doesn't. He's just miscued it, Benrahma. So no deflection on that one. It's out for a goal kick. Paqueta is back on the field as well, so that's good to see that it wasn't anything too serious. And Kaylor Navas just waiting to restart play. We did have two match balls on the pitch for a brief second. Jarrod Bowen has taken care of the spare one now, and Navas actually beckoning his teammates to get forward. He doesn't fancy a short goal kick this time because there were too many West Ham players in and around the Forest penalty area. Neco Williams losing this ball on the halfway line. There's a bit of a fall there from Paqueta. A couple of players have lost their balance in the last few minutes. Nothing like what we saw at Anfield on Tuesday. If anyone saw that first half in particular between Liverpool and Real, the players just seem to be losing their feet all over the place. Whether or not the pitch was slippier than they were expecting, or they all had the wrong studs in their boots, but whatever it was, it certainly looked as though players were having trouble with their balance. But nothing like that today here at the London Stadium. Colback on this occasion loses an aerial battle there with Thomas Souček, and now it's too foul down the right here for West Ham, trying to keep that ball, and well, he's trying to force a corner kick there, too foul, but he just let the ball run away from him a little bit too much. And Renan Lodi is there now for Forest to take the throw. We've got 40 minutes on the clock. Unofficial independent off-tube studio commentary from the game at the London Stadium, where it's goalless between West Ham and Nottingham Forest. And now West Ham trying to get forward here with Danny Ings. He dropped a little bit deeper this time. Ings going back towards Declan Rice, but that one's picked off by Brennan Johnson, and suddenly Forest are on the counter-attack. Johnson trying to take them all on here down the left. Needs a bit of support, and he's done well there, Brennan Johnson, because he was starting to run out of options in terms of where he could pass that ball. And so he draws the foul, and the foul is given. So this is going to be good news for Forest now. It's always risky when a centre-forward comes back to help in a defensive midfield, and that's precisely what Danny Ings tried to do there. But he's given away the free kick now. A good opportunity here for Forest to try and get players into the box. It's going to be Gibbs-White who sets up to take the free kick. He's a right footer. This ball is over on the left-hand side. We can expect this ball to be swinging in here from Gibbs-White. Fabianski trying to get that wall organised. And it's actually a two-man wall. I don't think there's too much risk of there being a shot from this sort of angle. It is quite wide on the left-hand side. But certainly a shot come across or a ball directed at that whole line of players at the edge of the area. That's where Fabianski needs to keep an eye on. As Gibbs-White looks to take this free kick. It's too low again. It may still drop it to Felipe, but Souček is there first. And he's able to get the clearance in up towards the halfway line. It's Neco Williams. There's John Joe Shelby there unhappy with the referee about something. Very hard to tell from that one live shot that we got as to exactly what Shelby was unhappy about. As Steve Cooper there trying to get some further instructions out to his players. I think overall he'll be happy that his side have weathered those periods of real West Ham pressure, but I think he would say as well that his side haven't really created enough themselves over the 45 or 42 minutes that we've seen so far to really say that they've had a goal threat in this game. As the two Johnsons now fighting for the ball on the West Ham left. Brennan for Forest saying that should have been a throw to the visitors. Ben Johnson saying it should be for West Ham, and the officials agree with the home players. So it is a throw to the Hammers down the left, back in towards Naif Orgerd. Now it's with Declan Rice on the left-hand side now to Ben Johnson over the halfway line. He's got options here, plays it back towards Rice. Rice in towards Ben Rama. And now Souček trying to get away, leaves that ball in for Ben Rama, back in towards Ings. Ings trying to hold it up inside the penalty area. He couldn't get a shot away himself. Souček fighting for it, gets there just ahead of Remo Freuler. And Souček now has got Freuler and Johnson around him, but he gets the ball into Ben Rama. Ben Rama on the line trying to get a cross in. John Joe Shelby is there, and he puts a good challenge in to knock the ball out for a corner. He's immediately having a bit of a to-do there with his own teammate Joe Worrell. Two of them in discussion about what should have happened before that ball finally got into the penalty area. But it is a corner kick to West Ham now from the left-hand side. 11 corner kicks in the game already. West Ham with 9, Forest with 2. In swinging out from Declan Rice. Out comes Navas, and he makes a save. So all these training sessions that he's had during this first half, all these practice crosses that he's had to deal with, finally comes out and makes a comfortable save. Some of the earlier attempts at punching the ball left a lot to be desired there from the experienced goalkeeper. Now it's Joe Worrell's ball over the top, down the right-hand side, and that header from Ogbonna was essential just outside the West Ham penalty area because Chris Wood was only just behind him. Ball now played back towards Fabianski. Leaves it here for Naif Orgerd. And now Vladimir Tufal off down the right-hand side over the halfway line. Leaves the ball here where I think he was leaving it for Jarrod Bowen, but that one's picked off by Brennan Johnson, and suddenly Forest have a gift of possession inside the West Ham half. Wood leaves it for Remo Freuler. Freuler gets towards the right-hand edge of the field, finding Neco Williams, whose cross is easily headed away by Ogbonna. Second ball back here now for Forest on the right-hand side. It's with Brennan Johnson. Williams back towards the halfway line now for Joe Worrell, and now Felipe being closed down here by Paqueta and by Ings. Back over towards Joe Worrell. His pass, it's not kept in play here by Brennan Johnson, and I think there's a look of what sort of pass was that to his teammate there from Brennan Johnson. And, certainly he he would have liked to have taken that one a little bit quicker, but West Ham take the throw and they give the ball away straight to Brennan Johnson, and he's off down the right-hand side. His pass to Gibbs-White doesn't quite reach its target, but he gets the ball back here. Brennan Johnson hits the deck inside the penalty area. Now the Forest players, the ball hasn't even got out of play yet, but the Forest players are absolutely furious here that this should be a penalty. The ball has gone out for a throw-on now, and now VAR can check. Is there a penalty here on Brennan Johnson? Well, I tell you what, Ben Johnson does make a bit of contact there with Brennan Johnson, but whether or not there's enough for a penalty, the feet are tangled there, but there's a bit of a dive as well, I think, from Brennan Johnson. The fall is unnatural, and I would be surprised. I mean, he's got his head in his hands there, the Forest front man, but I don't think that's a penalty. There's contact from Brennan. I knew this was going to happen when the two players with Johnson were going to be clashing here today, but. Essentially, Brennan Johnson had his heels clipped by the West Ham's left back, and then he hit the deck in an unnatural way. The contact that he had with his left heel should not cause him to vault forward like it's a dive forward. And I think that's probably what swung it either in the referee or in VAR's favour, that shouldn't be a penalty. We had 1 minute added to this first half. May have a few seconds extra because of the penalty check during that, the start of injury time. But in the meantime, it is Forest in possession here. A header from Shelby in towards Brennan Johnson. He runs into Angelo Ogbonna. And Ogbonna trying to win that ball back for West Ham. But he does well there in the end as Brennan Johnson holds the ball up and then plays it back towards Joe Worrell. Referee looks at his watch, and that's going to be it for this first half at the London Stadium. It is goalless between West Ham United and Nottingham Forest. And I'll be back for you in 15 minutes for second half off Tube Studio commentary.